We are live and ready when you are, Madam Chair. Okay. I'd like to call to order the SLW Planning Commission regular meeting via virtual on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gerber,
Here.
Mr. Forsberg, Mr. Forsberg,
Here.
and Ms. Carlucci.
Here. Item C, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
My second.
Is there any changes? Roll call on approval, please.
Okay. Mr. Forsberg,
Yes.
Ms. Gerber,
Yes.
Ms. Carlucci.
Yes. Item D, approval of minutes from February 3rd, 2021 and March 3rd, 2021.
Move to approve. Is that what we need?
My second.
There's a motion and second, discussion. There are a couple of grammatical errors that I would like to point out that will be corrected. And that is on page 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the bottom. Spoke to needing a drawing with the location of the project, removal of the word for, F-O-R. Page 7, the last paragraph where Carluccio is speaking, the word at the end of the sentence, the word with should be changed to for. And on page 10, under item 2, building permit application, go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines and drop the word code. That's just an extra word there. And those are the only changes. So if someone would amend the motion to approve the changes I just listed, that would be great.
I amend for changes.
Yeah, I'd second it.
Second, is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Forsberg,
Discussion? What's the question?
roll call vote for the motion.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Ms. Gerber,
Yes.
Ms. Carlucci.
Yes. And now to the main motion for the approval of the minutes. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forsberg,
Yes.
Ms. Gerber,
Yes.
Ms. Carlucci.
Yes. Minutes are approved as amended. Item E, public comments regarding items not on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public that has indicated that they would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda?
I don't see anybody from the public at this time, Ms. Carluccio or Madam Chair, and I was not notified previously that anybody would be in attendance to speak.
Okay, item F, public hearings prior notice, conditional use permit for Vertical Bridge Development LLC. Staff report, please.
Yes, thank you. This is going to start on page 13 of the packet. Please let me know if you can't hear me well. But 13 is the notice that went out to the public. It did have to be amended. The parcel ID previously listed were not the correct parcel IDs. So this is the amended notice that was sent out to everybody, along with the conditional use permit on page 14. The narrative following is the drawings. The city manager inquired about what would happen in the event of an emergency. And so the structure was engineered to break at a halfway point. There's a letter in here that speaks to that, so that if there was an emergency and it was to break or fall, it would fall fairly close to in place and not on anybody else's property or damage anything else. She also inquired about if there would be a light, knowing that that could be a contention in some communities, and Vertical Bridge responded that there would not be a light at the top of the tower, but there will be a lightning rod. You'll notice on the building permit later in the packet that it states that the height is 105, but after they received their approval from FAA, it did have to get lowered to 104. So that change in the building permit will need to come later. But there is that self-support, 100-foot self-support tower, like I was talking about, is listed on page 26. Page 27 is the letter of authorization from the property owners. And I did reach out to the borough and about if they had any suggestions or regulations on communication towers. And on page 29, I received an email back from Scott Huff. So that's in there for your guys' reference. And I do believe that we have Steve Hedges with Vertical Bridge Online. And I'm not sure, there's a few phone numbers. One of them might be Gary Brecky with Windrunners, who's been, who submitted the application on behalf of Vertical Bridge. And I didn't receive any comments from the public, any written comments.
Okay, so who is there from Vertical Bridge that would like to address us?
We have Mr. Steve Hedges and Gary. I'm not sure if you're on the line, but I think it's either *6 or *9 will raise your hand if you're on the line, and I can allow you to talk.
Can you guys hear me? This is Steve Hedges with Vertical Bridge. I'm the project manager responsible for developing this communications tower.
We can hear you, Steve.
All right. I'm really here, to answer any questions that you may have. As you mentioned, the FAA height was reduced from the original height, so the overall structure height allowed will be 104, which means we'll build, if approved, would build a 100-foot self-support tower with a 4-foot lightning rod at top.
Does anyone from the commission have any questions for Mr. Hedges?
Does what a tower is that leased, or is that owned by the people that are building it, or own it?
The property is privately owned, and we have a lease agreement that is already in place, signed with the property owner. So we're not the property owners. We have a leasehold interest.
And that's what
I think the question he's asking,
Yeah, how long is that
Mr.
lease?
Hedges, I think the question he's asking is, this is a communications tower, but do you have a lease agreement with any of the carriers
Yes,
to make
so
use of this?
we would be building the tower for Verizon Wireless. And we have several other interested carriers at this location as well. But right now, we have an agreement with Verizon Wireless.
I've noticed that your drawings indicate that you.
I'm sorry, you broke up there. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't hear anybody in the conference room.
Same here.
Hello, can you hear us now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. Sorry about that.
Okay. Mr. Hedges, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So the idea is that you would be able to put different carriers on this facing in different directions, or would they all face the same direction, or?
Yes, the idea would be that there would be multiple carriers, or that the tower is designed to hold multiple carriers. They don't necessarily put their antennas in one specific direction, but they're, they're at different azimuths. So they, they propagate in all directions, kind of, from the tower going outwards in all directions. So it's not one specific direction.
This is, so there would not be the possibility that they would all be on the same side of the tower and make it a little top heavy? Y'all have to excuse me because I don't really know that much about cell towers, but.
No, I totally get it. It's not just one antenna, it's several antennas at one height on the tower that goes around the tower. So it doesn't get top heavy, or it's designed on the front end to hold all this equipment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Hedges?
I was wondering, we were given a page called frequency data. Is this noise level? I'm sorry, again, I don't know much about cell towers. Is this talking about the noise level? Will it be emitting a noise?
No, it will not be emitting a noise.
Okay. And you addressed in your some of your statements that if it fell, it would fall within 50 feet of the tower itself.
Yeah, so it's designed with what we call a fall zone design, or a break point at 50% of the tower height. So the tower height being 100 feet, it's designed to, in an extreme condition, it's designed to collapse on itself. So the break point would be at 50% of the tower height, and it would basically just collapse on itself.
It's hard to tell from the drawings, but how far in is this structure from the end of the property?
It's definitely within that fall zone. Let me pull up the survey really quick and see if that shows it. It looks like it's right just about at 100 feet away from the property line. It's, as you can see on the site plan, it's about as centered as it possibly can be on the property.
Okay.
That's on page 28. Are there any more questions from the commission?
Yeah, how did they decide that there shouldn't be a light on it on top? Is, you know,
That's-
like in foggy weather?
That's
Go ahead.
decided by the FAA. So anything over the height of 200 feet is automatically required to be lit. Anything under 200 feet is at the determination of the FAA. And we submitted a determination of no hazard from the FAA along with the zoning application. And that's a document from the FAA.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I noticed that it's kind of sits up on a knoll too, so it does, you know, it does sit up a little bit compared to other areas there too. So, okay.
Right. Understood. It's not in the flight path though. So that's why it's not a
Good.
concern
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
FAA.
But actually, I know from the safety, the Seldovia, the emergency planning, I believe that because the school is an evacuation place, that potentially they could be landing helicopters and such either in the parking lot or in the field, in which case that would be an issue. But my question was, what would this, it doesn't list on the building permit, or at least not on, I don't know if I have an older one. It doesn't say the percentage that this project will bring lot coverage to.
The percentage of lot coverage.
Yeah, on number 5 on a building permit application, it says this project will bring the total lot coverage to, and it's blank on this building permit. I don't know whether I maybe have an older copy or if you have updated this to write the percentage.
I do not have the answer to that. The lot coverage, you mean how much space are, so our space is a 50 by 50 lease area. We could certainly, I guess, calculate the percentage of what that 2,500 square footage is versus the overall lot. Is that, we could calculate that when we submit for the building permit, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, because in that area, we have a maximum lot coverage.
We have, part of this is we are taking down a derelict building. So that would, you know, that's already part of the lot coverage, I would assume, on the lot.
Yeah, and I believe your project is expanding on the is actually expanding on that. So because it has a cement bed
It
underneath
is.
it that you're taking off the building, adding to the cement bed. So it actually would probably increase lot coverage. So I'm just wondering with this project, what percentage it would bring it to.
Okay, we can calculate that.
Awesome.
I had one more question. Is it gonna have backup power if we lose power?
Yeah.
Work on it.
I can't
Yes.
hear anyone.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so the carrier's equipment typically has backup power, battery backup power for if power were to go out.
Okay, good.
And if it's ever longer than what the batteries would last, a diesel generator could be brought in for backup power.
Good. Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to have any, that has any questions for Mr. Hedges?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time. I do believe the Gary, an associate of Vertical Bridge is on and can speak if he'd like to, but I'm not seeing anybody from the public at this time, Madam Chair.
You said Mr. Bridges?
Yes. Or Becky, sorry.
Brecky. Okay, Mr. Brecky, is there anything that you would like to add to this? Do I have his name right? I can't see the phone number.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, so I was just going to expound a little bit on the lot percentage of usage. I think is about 50%. The lease space is a 50 by 50, and I think the lot is 100 by 50, roughly. Now, that's just the fenced area, but the tower itself and the equipment in there would all be contained within that fenced area. And it's basically centered on that, where that pole building now sits. It will be expanded slightly to accommodate the 50 by 50, but that's all gravel in there. There's no cement slab there.
So if I'm I'm not quite sure if I'm understanding you correctly, but with the parking spaces and the cement pad, it would bring your lot coverage to about 50%.
Well, if you include the parking spots, it might be more than that. But the leased space, the fenced area itself, is probably close to 50%.
This is all gravel, like Gary said.
Yes, all gravel. Where the pole building sits now, the only cement that's there are for the vertical supports. They're square concrete piers that the vertical supports sit on. The rest of the area under that pole building is all gravel.
And Gary's just referring to lot 14. Lot 13, 14, and 15 all equal one parcel. So what Gary's referring to is that 50% of lot 14, but the overall property, the parcel, would obviously be a lot less.
In other words, there wouldn't be a problem with lot coverage.
We don't believe so. But we can figure it out. We'll modify the building permit application and include that information.
Okay, and just another little technicality, when you do the building permit, please initial each of the items, so we're sure that you looked at it. Is there anyone from the public that has any questions for each of the testifiers?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, with that, I will close public comment. Thank Mr. Hedges and I'm sorry, I can't read the name.
Brecky.
Brecky, sorry, for your testimony. And I will bring it back to the commission for some discussion. The one thing that I do want to point out is that since there are just 3 members present, we do not have the authority tonight to approve this. We need to have 4 people to take a vote on approving it. What we can do is we can recommend to the council to consider this at their next available meeting, and we can recommend either approval or disapproval. So with that, I'll turn it back to the commission for some comments.
Yeah, it looks like, they got everything covered as far as I can see. I think, I'd be in favor of that, I believe.
I do not agree. I think they need to try for a variance, not a conditional use. Because it goes against a lot of stuff. A conditional use would not allow this at all. It could negatively affect the property, how much someone could get for their property. It's in a residential neighborhood. That's not a permitted use in this zone. It could affect home value. It's just not, it far exceeds the maximum building height. It's just not, it's not really appropriate in this zone. It isn't consistent with the purpose of the district. And if they do want to get a variance, they have to send out actual letters to everybody within 300 feet of, in the peripheral of the property.
Kathleen, they did on a conditional use, letters had to go out to everybody within 300 feet. That's one of the requirements of a conditional use also.
Yeah,
And Ms. Gagel, you had something to
if I
say?
could speak to that, Kathleen, they did come to the city office to ask what would be needed to be able to put a tower in that zone. But through a code review, we did recommend a conditional use permit application because it does state in the land use code that for a utility, public facility, including communications in a residential zone, it's a conditional use that's required.
But is this a public utility? Isn't it owned by a private company?
It's for the public. The utility is for the public use, like communications, HEA, and fuel would be a public utility. And I can pull up that code for you real quick. We don't have anything that specifies communications tower, which is something that Polly and myself have talked about along with, I talked about this with the city manager. But currently in our brand new land use, we do have utility public facility on page 44, and residential is conditional use. And then under definitions, 112 utility public facility is an installation owned by an agency under public franchise or ownership or under certificate of convenience and necessity, providing the public with electricity, gas, heat, steam, communication, water, sewage collection, or other similar service.
But don't those still have to obey the code? So like any building, so if they're building a sewage treatment plant, doesn't it still have to obey the codes of the residential area of the zoning?
It is one of the allowed uses under conditional use.
But it doesn't it still have to, it still has to obey the codes, the building codes. So like if they were building a sewage treatment plant, wouldn't it still have to obey lot coverage, height restrictions, noise restrictions? Wouldn't it have to obey all that still?
So you're talking about the height, because of the height restriction, they would need a variance on top of the conditional use.
Yeah.
That I don't know. That I don't have an answer for you at this time.
And I believe, where is it?
That might be something that we would need to get, legal point of view.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, it can be, there's no main structure to this either. I mean, it's in a residential zone. It's not commercial residential. It's not industrial. It's not commercial. It's in a residential zone.
Yes, but also in a residential zone, it is a conditional use. It's permitted if they get a conditional use because it's a communications and that is a utility which services the public.
But will it also negatively affect the value of the homes around it?
I'm going to ask the clerk, do you know offhand how many letters were sent out?
Not offhand, but I think it was about 20.
And it covered all the people that own property around there?
Yes, everybody within a 300-foot radius.
And what about the school?
It included the school.
And has any comments been received from the school
No,
or from any of the property owners that received notification?
no notice was received from the public. There was one question, and they were asking about what kind of service would be provided. I did forward that to Mr. Hedges and Mr. Brecky, and they responded back that that would be part of what the provider, up to the provider to provide, but nothing specific about the building of the tower. And it does look like Mr. Hedges has his hand raised.
Mr. Hedges, did you have a comment?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Just a comment. It is in the location where the wireless carriers want to provide service, which is where, you know, the people, the residents and the businesses are. So it's not, like I said, it's not just Verizon that wants to improve their service there. We've also been contacted from several other wireless companies that have heard that we're planning a tower at that location that are very interested. So this would significantly improve wireless services in the area, including emergency services, right? Considering most 911 calls are now on cell phone. So being by the school, emergency services is significantly going to be increased in this area.
But isn't there a commercially zoned area like 4 lots away?
So Kathleen, if I may, Madam.
I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now? I don't know why that keeps
There we
going.
go.
I'm not sure if Gary would like to speak more to this or not, but I do know that Vertical Bridge and Gary as a representative has been in the town a couple of times over the last couple of years. And I do believe that they have surveyed a lot of the area of town of where a tower could be appropriate to go.
Yeah, this is Gary. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me? Okay. Yeah, I've been to Seldovia 3 separate times looking for properties to locate a site on. And the biggest limiting entity is the FAA to try to locate a tower because of the airfield there was very problematic. And so this was one area that they agreed we could go on at the height that made it attractive for the carriers to want to locate on. So, I mean, I found some, what I thought were incredibly awesome potential cell sites that would have provided tremendous coverage in the whole area there, but the FAA wouldn't allow them at any reasonably usable height.
Anybody there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but everybody else, I can't get a hold of anybody else. I can't get a hold of the city.
I can hear you both.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, could you hear what I was
Can hear
talking
you.
about?
Yeah, we heard you. It seems like that there's an audio issue in our room that keeps cutting out. So just let us know if you can't hear us and I'll adjust the speaker. I'm not sure what's wrong and my IT guy isn't here tonight. I apologize, but it seems like our speakers are wanting to cut out on us. So if you can't hear us, we can still hear you. Just let us know and we'll fix it.
So
Okay.
Roger, you can't hear us?
Yes, now I can. Now I can.
Okay.
Earlier, I couldn't hear or see you.
So was it one of the testifiers or was it here when we were speaking?
I'm sorry, who was that directed to?
That was directed to everybody, but mostly Roger, Mr. Forsberg.
Oh. Yes, it had just been off for a little bit when I guess Gary was talking.
Yeah,
I
you
guess
got cutting out.
my whole deal would be if
Go ahead, Gary.
Hello? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
me too.
Okay. So one of the questions that Kathleen brought up that I don't have the answer to is whether the conditional use incorporates any variances that might be needed or not. And I don't know if I'm prepared to answer that question.
I had another comment if you got, are we still open for comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess as long as all the property owners okay it, or probably as long as when a tower goes up, somebody says, oh my God, it looks like, bad, that, at least we want to have clearance before, we don't want that to come back and have complaints like that. They didn't realize what it was gonna look like and stuff. So as long as the property owners around there are okay with it, that's the key, I think.
Yeah, I think property owners and also the safety issue, just because, I mean, we get hurricane force winds, we get ice, we get snow, and if that thing crumpled and fell on the roadway, I mean, it's our emergency building, and we can't have the roadway blocked in the middle of an emergency. Though I did read about the crumple zone and also the winds that it can sustain. I think it was gust of 154 for up to 3 seconds, but that was without ice. And let's be honest, most of those really bad windstorms happen in winter. So I don't know if it's been tested for that, but I think because it's an emergency a zone, because that's what we use the school for, I think that does have to be thought about. And also, the effect on the surrounding property owners, and the values of their properties, if this is going to negatively affect property values. I mean,
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that for sure, Kathleen, and it was sent to all the property owners, and no one indicated that they felt that it would affect their property value.
This is Gary. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Oh. Okay, what I was going to say is that the property value topic has been a long debated topic in wireless, in cellular. And I think it can go either way, because there are people who will buy homes specifically because they have excellent cell coverage. And I use my own kids as an example. My kids have never had a landline. They've only ever had cell phones. And so they specifically looked for their homes in coverage areas. So that's the other side of that debate.
Yeah.
Coverage again.
I can't, were you guys saying something? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Roger, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I don't see it as being a property value problem. I think that if we would have gotten some negative comments from surrounding property, the school certainly had plenty of opportunity to voice their opinion.
Are you guys still I can't, you said something about the school? Can you hear them, Roger?
Can you hear me
Earlier, I
now?
could.
Can you hear me, Kathleen?
Yes.
Okay. What I said was that letters did go out to the surrounding property. Letters went out to the school. I do believe that letters were sent to the city and surrounding people from the Heritage Group, who wanted to know if it was going to impact any of the historical buildings in town. And I don't believe that any of those received negative comments. I think one of the questions that we have to look at before this goes to council, and if Heidi can get a determination on this, or the city manager can, is if in fact, in addition to a conditional use permit, do they also need a variance? I personally don't think so, but I'm not the lawyer. And so therefore, if someone would like to make a recommendation to send this on to the city council with our approval or our recommended approval, then I'll entertain the motion.
Yeah, I think I'd move to recommend.
Hello?
Do I have a second? I'm going to second that motion. And we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Forsberg,
Yes.
Ms. Gruber,
Yes.
Ms. Carluccio.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so that being said, we'll move on to the next item. So Mr. Hedges, and I'm sorry, why can't I read that at the name? Brecker. Sorry,
No,
your
thank you
name
guys.
is very small. So the recommendation will go to the city council, and in the meantime, the clerk will speak with the city manager and a determination will be made where a variance is required in addition to the conditional.
Okay, do you have the date for the city council?
Yes,
Just so I can mark my calendar.
next Monday, April 12th is the next meeting, and we can get you on there.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, very good. This is Gary. Yep, thank you very much.
I will send you two both a link tomorrow, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Very good.
Thank you.
The next item, preliminary replat, Seldovia Town Site, Pollock Edition 2021. Staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is on page 34 of your packet. I came to the Planning Commission at the last meeting, but more information was needed. The Planning Commission requested information on the plat pertaining to parking and setbacks, and if there was any utility easements. The surveyor, I'm not sure how you pronounce your last name, Jason, I apologize. But he is online for any questions that the commission may have. But you'll see that there are two drawings provided. One on page 35 shows the buildings, and one on 34 is the preliminary plat. And when speaking with Jason, he did mention that that, you know, this would go to the borough and that they would also be looking at easements and any additional information that would be needed for this replat.
Would the surveyor like to say something?
And I apologize, we also have Mr. Pollock, property owner, here as well.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Jason Schollenberg, Peninsula Surveying.
Yes.
Yeah, I just here to answer any questions. I think we covered your guys' concerns from the last meeting, but if not, we can provide any additional information. And I think the owner, Steve Pollock, he's on, I believe, and he might be able to answer any questions also that you guys might have.
Any questions from the commission? I guess the only question I had was actually for staff, and that is the parking is over the easement, the utility easement. Does that present a problem for the city?
And I apologize, Madam Chair, I do not have an answer directly for that. I do know that the parking, at least some of it is already existing. Particularly, it looks like the piece that where the easement is, the parking is already existing there. So I can look into whether that creates a problem or not, but they are both existing at this point.
Any questions, Mr. Forsberg or Ms. Gruber?
That 9 foot thing, that's the minimum's 5, right? On
Yeah.
that building, I believe.
I'm sorry, Roger, you're breaking up. Please repeat your question.
I got a piece. Yeah, I see that 9 foot to the split there. That's the minimum, if I remember, is just 5, right? That's all you need is 5 feet
Yes.
there.
The side setbacks on property in that area is 5 feet.
Yeah, that's about the only question I had.
And I believe on the replat on notes, it says, number 1, no permanent structure will be constructed or placed within a utility easement, which would interfere with the ability of a utility to use that easement. And I think that as long as he's not doing concrete parking, like pads, they should still, they may have to rip up his driveway if something goes really wrong, but as long as it's not a permanent structure, I think it sounds okay.
Any other questions for the surveyor or for Mr. Pollock?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Steve. Yeah, I have, just to clarify for Kathleen, to her point, there is no intentions on having any permanent structure, especially not a concrete pad or anything like that.
Okay, and I guess the parking on the far corner is so that there are 2 parking spots on that lot?
Yeah, that back corner is already existing, but yeah, I wasn't going to change that. Maybe, yeah, I wasn't going to touch that, honestly. It's just more primarily for the, my goal is to get that other lot in there.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing no further questions, I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion or motion, please.
Um, there's no minimum, square footage on those lots, is it?
No, there isn't. It's in waterfront. It's in the waterfront commercial residential area, and there is no minimum lot size. There is minimum lot
Okay.
coverage, but I don't believe that either of these buildings is close to the
Good.
required amount.
Okay, yeah, that's all I had.
I think as long as there's no impeding of the utilities, it doesn't look like there is. I mean, all the setbacks are well within the distance they need to be. He's got the right amount of parking spaces. He's not exceeding lot coverage. I don't see any issues with it.
Okay, so if someone would like to move approval of the preliminary, or recommend approval of the preliminary plat, Seldovia Townsite Pollock Edition 2021.
I move to approve.
I second it.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Forsberg,
Yes.
Ms. Gruber,
Yes.
Ms. Carlucci.
Yes. And with that, I'd like to call, please, for a 5-minute break. Thank you, Mr. Pollock and Jason.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Roger that.
No Roger yet. Hello, can you guys hear us?
Can you hear us, Roger?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to item H, commission business, ordinance 21, unnumbered, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending Title 17, buildings and construction. Presentation by staff, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is on page 42 of your packet. And let's get to it here real quick. This came about after the discussion of the last planning commission meeting on regards to updating the building permit. It was discovered that there was an error in the code under, it'll be page 44, under item D, time limit. The stated 2 years or 760 days, which should have read 730 days. Part of it was also mentioned that the electrical, plumbing, mechanical, building codes.
I can't hear you. Anything after building codes.
I am so sorry, this is frustrating.
Same here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so it was also mentioned at the previous meeting that the codes, the building, electrical, plumbing, and codes, so on, should be included on the building permit. But staff recommended that they be updated to the codes that would be followed, or reference to the codes that would be followed instead of current code council building reference books, because that reference was hard to follow on what the actual current code council building reference books were. So you'll see page 44 through 46 updates those codes to what Alaska statutes states we should be following, along with what the standards of the industry are. The only other note I should make is that, or two other notes on page 43, not to jump back and forth, but under application fee, as we've been updating the code through the last couple of years, we've been trying, as staff, we've been trying to be cognizant of recommending removal of application amounts or any set dollar amounts in code and moving them into the fee schedule. That way it's an easier place to adopt. We adopt the fee schedule annually with a fee for what those applications would be versus having to do a code change every time we want to update a fee or a charge for a permit or any other reference that has to a cash amount. And when speaking with Ms. Carluccio, she did mention, and I'm gonna make sure to go through as I make changes in the future, that also on 17.04.020 building permits in A towards the bottom, it does say a verbal response from city staff or individuals, Sildovia Planning and Zoning Commission members. And as of Title 18, you guys are the Sildovia Planning Commission. So I've been really working to try to make sure that we're following code and that you are stated correctly. So it's recommended that the wording and zoning is removed. So that's not in this current copy, but if this is recommended to council from the planning commission, I will make sure to include that change. And the only question I have is under when I removed the fee for the application, I did strike out the requirements that for under 400 square feet, to pay the fee of $50. And I left in no fee is required for 100 square feet or less. I wasn't sure if that was necessary for that to remain in here, or both of those should just move into the fee schedule along with the application price. That way that if there's any changes to the requirements for who can and cannot get a building permit, it's left clearly on the fee schedule to make those determinations. Or if you guys wanted to make sure that no fee is required for 100 square feet or less, stays in this code.
That was an awful lot to take in.
Sorry.
That was a lot to take in, and actually, I'm going to recommend that we not do anything about this tonight because of all the number of changes in addition to the ones that were already made, or that Heidi has made. I just noticed that, in speaking today with the city manager, one of the things we'll go over later is that the city manager has the authority in the code to approve building permits. And I just noticed that on the bottom of page 43, it says if a building permit is denied and the applicant resubmits the application with changes to the planning commission. So maybe that will even have to be changed since it's really submitted to the city. So we might have to relook at this whole chapter 17 to see if there are more changes that need to be made rather than just doing it a couple changes at a time. So does anybody have any questions?
You cut out again.
Yeah, I think they're gone again.
Okay, we should be back.
How much did you hear?
You cut out right where I think you were asking us to see if we had any questions. I think that's where you cut out.
Okay, any questions or any comments?
Probably, yeah, I think we definitely need to look at it some more, you know. like you say, it was definitely a mouthful. There's like several stuff there. We did get
Yeah, I
that.
agree a lot.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
I agree that it's a lot and that, I mean, I read through everything. It looked good to me. But it would be nice to go over it with a fine tooth comb and discuss it together.
And also, if we held off on it till the next meeting, Heidi would be able to make the corrections that you talked about, so that when we got it, we would actually see what parts were taken out and what parts should be added.
It's just the one.
Oh, no, also that last sentence I just talked about.
Oh, okay, this is true.
And also, I think that the one thing that she did want an answer on was whether we needed to put in there about, what, 50 square feet or 100 square feet, or what was your?
Do you want the square feet requirement in the code for no fee under 100 square feet? Or do you want that in the fee schedule so it's amendable in the fee schedule?
I think it makes sense to put it in the fee schedule. That way, if the city decides that even those under 100 square feet take a certain amount of time, that there may be a fee associated with it. And that way we wouldn't have to change the whole ordinance again, or we wouldn't have to change the code again. And it would just be a matter of changing the fee schedule. Any other comments?
No.
So there's no action on this one until next meeting when the corrections will be made. So the item H2 is building permit review and discussion with examples from the DOD request 21-02 and 21-03. One of the things that the city manager and I discussed today was, in fact, that there was a place on the building permit for a commissioner to sign. And actually, in the code, it says that the city manager has the authority to approve a building permit. So we are in fact going to take that block off the building permits. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be asked to look at them, but that the city has the responsibility to make sure that the building permit follows all the guidelines of the area that the building is going in. Now, if the planning commission decides that we want to review the building permits at our meetings, we can do that. It would take a change to the code, but at one time, all the building permits did come to the planning commission and they were discussed at the meetings and then either approved or not approved. It was felt that it would be more expeditious for people who are putting in building permits if it could be done at the city office. And so therefore, the authority was given to the city manager. I don't know if you have, agree with the way it's being done, or you'd like to see it changed back to the old way, or what? Open for discussion. I also wanted you to look at these building permits though, because this application is some of the best that I've seen over all the years that I've been on the planning commission. They really covered just about everything. And although we did ask a bunch of questions, they did have answers for all of them.
So under if I understand what you're proposing is that the planning commission would still need to review building applications, but we would not be signing off on them. It would just be Rachel or the city manager.
That's what I thought. Yes. When I mentioned to the city manager that in fact the code indicated that she did have approving authority, that's when she said that she thought that the planning commission should be taken off the building permit. Now, if we want to recommend that it be reviewed by a planning commissioner, we can do that too and leave it on the building permit. That would take a change to the code, but as we've seen over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of changes to the code, so that's not something that we have to decide tonight, but it is something to consider, and we can put it on the agenda for next time to review.
So as it stands now, the city manager can approve a building permit without recommendation? Is that?
Yes.
Is that how it stands now?
That's what's in the code.
Okay, okay. Yeah, probably wouldn't hurt to talk about it a little bit, you know. I mean, I would think that she would probably want as much input, you know, it's just a recommendation, I guess. She still has the authority, yay or nay, right?
That's what the code says right now.
Right.
The way it stands right now, the code doesn't say anything about bringing it to the commission or showing it to the commission.
Okay.
And if we want to, we can.
Oh, you cut out again. You cut out it if we want to.
How about now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for a comment.
You cut out if we want to. Can you hear them, Roger?
They cut out again. Yeah.
I swear I've never had this much problems with the technology. I'm so sorry, guys. I did message our IT guy, and it sounds like it might just be a problem with the line right now. So I apologize for the frustration.
Okay.
So if we want to, we can have the code changed so that a commissioner's signature is required along with the city manager, and that it requires 2 approving authorities. But the way it stands right now, it's just the city manager.
I would like to discuss this because maybe the next meeting, because as much as I completely agree that building permits around here, they need to go fast because our building season is so short and we want to help people. And not to speak off the cuff, but we've had a lot of different city managers, and whether they're fully prepared to, you never know how long you're going to have one, and you may get one that's not fully prepared to look into all the codes and zoning, and we don't want them to sign off on something that will come back and reflect badly on the planning commission. So I think that it would be good to talk about this at a meeting and try to find a happy middle ground.
Roger?
Yeah, also another thing to consider would be as much trouble as we have to keep a commission going, there's going to be times when we might not have enough members to do anything anyway. So, if the city manager is equipped to do it, it might be the way to go too at certain times anyway. If we don't have enough members, yeah.
The kind of the way we've been doing it is that we don't bring it to a meeting for discussion. It's usually just one commissioner who looks it over and kind of gives it final approval. But when I was reading the code, I noticed that it said that it was just the city manager. So we either have to clean up the code or we have to get the commissioner's name off the building permit. So I do believe that by the next meeting, hopefully we will have a 4th commissioner. And that might be a really good topic for all of us to discuss at that time. So with your approval, we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Does that sound good, Roger and Kathleen?
Yes.
Yes, I move to approve.
We don't have to approve anything. We're just going to have it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Next.
Okay, and with that, we'll go to staff reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to update the commission that the City of Selovia 2014 Comprehensive Plan Review by the Commission will be set to begin at the May 5th, 2021 Commission meeting. First review was tentatively on the economy section. I'm not sure if that changed today or not, but Ms. Friedlander is planning to be in attendance at that meeting and in future meetings, and would help facilitate that discussion for the review. And I do think that she took your comments to heart, Kathleen, and is planning on presenting a synopsis of things that have taken place in the city over the years to help you guys be able to really do a thorough job in grading the city.
And I spoke with her just briefly today about this also, and I made a suggestion to her that in some cases, maybe a survey to residents in the city might be in order to get their viewpoint as to whether we've been following the comprehensive plan and whether we've made the strides that were recommended in the comprehensive plan. So that should be an interesting meeting next time. Item 2, update variance permit application, coal enforcement letter sent.
Yes, so that is in your packet on page 94. I just wanted the planning commission to be aware that an enforcement letter was sent to Mr. Cole requiring that he provide the city with an as-built by, I believe it's June 1st.
Can you hear them, Roger?
I see them, but I don't hear them yet.
Hello.
It's like they're froze.
Hi.
Hey, did you lose it? Did I lose you at Justin Cole enforcement letter?
Yes, about the as-built.
Yes, so the enforcement letter was sent requiring an as-built be provided to the city by July 1st. Or no, starting July 1st, a fine will be imposed. Yep. Consider this letter notice to provide the city of Sedalia with a professionally produced as-built survey or remove the deck by July 1st, 2021. The city was also informed is over the key box for where the city would shut off the water to the residents. So that's something that we have to look into as well.
And the next item is vacancy ordinance.
Yes. So per city council's request,
Can you hear him, Roger?
Went out again. Picture went out too.
oh now, I feel like a Verizon or whatever commercial it was. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So this was on the last staff report. I feel bad that it got pushed off. It was, we were hoping to have a vacancy ordinance to present to council or to the commission this evening. But with the building permit ordinance, it got pushed aside, and I feel like maybe with the building permit ordinance and the building permit review conversation coming back at the next meeting, it may get pushed aside again. But eventually, that will come up and be the next step for the planning commission, is the review of a vacancy ordinance per council's request.
And item 4, planning commission vacancy.
Yes, I am happy to report that the city sent out letters to individuals in the community who had expressed interest in joining the Sedalia Planning Commission. And I didn't put on here, but the council did follow legal recommendation and opened up the planning commission to allow 1 seat on the commission for a member who resides outside of city limits. So we sent out letters to a few people inside city limits and 1 outside city limits that we had heard may be interested in joining the commission. And we received a letter of interest from Miss Allison Rain, who is in the audience tonight, yay. And the mayor has approved that appointment, so that's going to go to the council on Monday's meeting for hopefully a confirmation from the council to approve having Miss Rain on the commission.
And I just want to tell you, Allison, that our meetings we don't always have this many problems with the audio. So So with that, is there any other things, informational items not requiring action, none comments of the public? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address us?
None at this time, Madam Chair.
Comments of the commission? Roger?
Looks like we're making progress. Good meeting.
Kathleen?
I look forward to our new members.
Yes, and hopefully by the next meeting, we can all be here. Our next meeting, regular scheduled meeting is for May 5th, 2021. And with that, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
So ordered. Thank you all.
All right, good night.
Good night.